What the hell is this?
Travis Lawson, 94 kilos, blocked the door. Behind him, dozens of bodyguards, all over 90 kilos, all staring. A tiny black woman in the doorway. 1.57 meters, braids, worn-out sneakers, alone.
This tryout is for sharks, not cockroaches. Get out!
Simone didn't move. Brody Kemp stood, towered over her.
Run before I crush you.
The room erupted. Simone waited, picked up a pen, signed, eyes calm as still water.
I'll wait my turn.
Good. I'm restless anyway. I need something to stomp on.
What happened next? No one saw coming. One move, faster than a blink, 4 seconds. The biggest man there, 104 kilos, hit the ground. But that was just the beginning. What came after those 4 seconds turned one tiny woman's life into a war no one expected. To understand what happened in that gym, you need to know who Simone Anderson really was. Richmond, Virginia. East Side. The kind of neighborhood where porch lights stay off after dark and nobody calls the police. Simone was 34, 125 pounds, and she was tired. The kind of tired that sleep can't fix. 3 jobs. That was her life. Mornings. School cafeteria. Scooping mashed potatoes, wiping trays, smiling at other people's kids, while her own daughter sat 2 hallways away. Afternoons, food delivery app, bad tips, rude customers. One of them once threw a bag back at her and said, "I didn't order from someone like you." She picked it up and drove to the next stop. Nights, the hospital, mopping floors, scrubbing toilets, cleaning rooms where patients died hours before. 8 hours on her feet, every night, in a building that smelled like bleach and grief. 3 jobs, still 3 months behind on rent. The landlord had taped the eviction notice on her door. 30 days. After that, she and Zoe would be on the street. Zoe, 10 years old. The only light in Simone's life. That girl had a smile that could fix a broken room. She didn't know they were about to lose the apartment. Simone made sure of that. Every night, Zoe set the table with paper napkins folded into little flowers. She called it our fancy restaurant. 2 bowls of instant ramen, 1 candle. And Zoe would say, "Mommy, this is the best dinner ever." She drew pictures constantly, always the same. Her mom wearing a red cape, flying over buildings. Superheroes. That's what Simone was to her. Simone couldn't afford to let that girl down. But money wasn't the only weight on her shoulders. 4 years. That's how long her ex-husband Dwight had beaten her. The limp in her left leg. That wasn't from sports. Dwight shoved her down a staircase one night. Her ankle never healed right. When Zoe was 4, Simone packed a plastic bag of clothes, picked up her daughter in the dark, and walked out at 3 in the morning. No car, no phone, no plan. Her mother? Cut off contact the day Simone married Dwight. Never came back. The only person who ever protected her was her father, Raymond Anderson, retired Marine combat instructor. He took Simone into his garage the week she came home with Zoe. No speeches. He handed her a pair of old boxing gloves and said, "We start tomorrow." 15 years of Krav Maga. 15 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Every morning, before the world woke up, father and daughter trained in that garage. He never entered her in competitions. Never told anyone. He trained her for one reason. So no one could ever put their hands on her again. Raymond died 2 years ago. Lung cancer. Before he went, he held her hand and said 5 words she tattooed on her ribs. "You're stronger than you think." Now those old gloves hung in her garage. Every night after Zoe fell asleep, before the hospital shift, Simone hit that heavy bag for 20 minutes. Same gloves, same silence. That was who walked into Granite Shield's tryout. A woman with nothing left to lose, and a skill set nobody in that room could imagine. Granite Shield Protection Agency, elite private security, politicians, celebrities, corporate executives, run by Craig Belton, all-male roster, all-white roster. The open tryout existed for one reason only. A city diversity clause forced their hand. Travis Lawson ran operations, ex-college linebacker, never saw real combat. But he controlled who got in and who didn't. And he had already decided. Long before Simone walked through that door, the salary was $5,800 a month, 3 times her current income, enough to keep the apartment, enough to stop choosing between rent and food, enough for Zoe to keep folding napkin flowers at a table that was still theirs. So when Simone saw that flyer, she looked at the eviction notice, then at Zoe's drawing on the fridge. Mommy, in a red cape. She picked up her phone and dialed. But what waited inside that gym was worse than anything Dwight ever did. This time, it wasn't one man. It was an entire room. Simone didn't own a car anymore. Repossessed 2 weeks ago, missed 3 payments, so she took the bus, then walked the last 1.5 miles in the rain. By the time she reached Granite Shield's gym, her sneakers were soaked through and her braids dripped water onto the sign-in desk. Every man in the room turned to look. Some shook their heads. A few laughed without even trying to hide it. Travis was already waiting. He held up 2 wristbands, blue for recruits, pink for visitors. He dangled the pink one in front of her face like bait. Visitor badge. You can watch from the bench. I'm here for the tryout, Simone said. Travis leaned in close enough that only she could hear. You really want to embarrass yourself in front of all these men? Go home, cook dinner for your kid. Simone took the pink band, put it on without a word, stepped onto the mat. Travis smiled. He turned to Brody Kemp and said, loud for the whole room, Brody, come show our guest how orientation works. Brody walked over slow, each step deliberate. He looked down at Simone the way you'd look at something stuck to your shoe. This'll be quick, he said. It was. Brody shoved her with one arm, open palm. Simone hit the mat hard, right on her left side, the bad ankle. Pain shot up her leg like electricity. Her vision blurred for half a second. Nobody moved, nobody helped. One recruit looked away. The rest watched like it was entertainment. Simone pressed her hands flat on the mat, pushed herself up, stood, reset her stance. Her jaw was tight, her eyes were wet, but she didn't make a sound. Travis had his phone out, recording. Later that night, he texted Craig Belton. Diversity checkbox showed up. Wet, limping, 125 pounds. Won't last the morning. Belton replied with one word. Good. Simone wiped the rain off her forehead, looked at the referee standing in the corner, the only person in the room who hadn't laughed, and asked one question. Is full contact allowed in round 2? The referee stared at her, then slowly nodded. Something shifted behind Simone's eyes. Something quiet. Something dangerous. The next 3 days were designed to break her. Every drill, every rotation, every pairing. None of it was random. Travis made sure of that. Day 1. Gear assignment. Every recruit received a standard 30-pound training vest. Simone got the 50-pound one, the one with the torn strap that dug into the shoulder. Travis tossed it at her feet. That's all we got left. Make it work. It was a lie. 3 standard vests sat untouched on the rack behind him. 2 recruits saw it. Neither said a word. He paired her with the biggest recruits, every round, no exceptions. When other men got 3-minute rest breaks, Simone got 90 seconds. When others ran drills in pairs, she ran alone, with Travis watching from a folding chair, stopwatch in hand, waiting for her to quit. Between rotations, she heard them. Not whispers. They didn't bother whispering. How long before she drops? $5 says she's gone by lunch. She doesn't belong here. Look at her. She doesn't belong anywhere near here. Simone said nothing. She finished every drill. Every one. She didn't quit. Day 2. The dummy carry. Every recruit had to lift and carry a weighted dummy across the gym floor. Most got the 150-pound version. Simone got the 200-pound one. Heavier than her own body. She lifted it. Made it 4 steps. Fell. Got up. 6 steps. Fell again. Travis pulled out his phone. Started filming. A few recruits gathered behind him, watching the screen, grinning. 3rd attempt. She got halfway across the floor. Her knee hit the ground hard. Skin scraped through the fabric of her pants. She paused, reached into her bag, pulled out a strip of athletic tape, wrapped her knee right there on the floor. Then she stood up, grabbed the dummy, and finished the carry. Not one person clapped. Travis lowered his phone and shook his head, almost disappointed she'd made it. That night, Travis posted the clip on TikTok. He added circus music. The caption read, "Granite Shield's new weapon. She can barely carry her own purse." 500,000 views in 2 days. The comments were worse than the video. Why is she even there? Somebody call animal control. This is what diversity hiring looks like. A joke. Go back to where you came from. People like her always want handouts. Now, they want our jobs too. Simone saw every one of them. She sat at the bus stop at 11 at night, reading comments on a cracked phone screen under a flickering streetlight, waiting for the ride to her hospital shift. The night was cold. Her knee throbbed. She locked the screen, put the phone in her pocket, and stared at the road. The bus was 14 minutes late. Day 3. The worst one. Simone left her duffel bag on the bench during a drill. When she came back, it was gone. She found it in the dumpster behind the gym, in the rain. She pulled it out with both hands, unzipped it slowly. Inside, soaked through, was Zoe's latest drawing. Mommy in a red cape. The colors had bled together, the paper soft and falling apart. Underneath it, wrapped in a towel, were her father's old boxing gloves. The leather was dark with rain. The stitching along the thumb was coming loose. Simone held those gloves against her chest, stood in the rain, closed her eyes, and whispered the only words that still kept her standing. "You're stronger than you think." She stayed like that for a long time. Rain ran down her face, and she didn't wipe it. She didn't have to. Nobody was watching. Nobody cared. That evening, her phone rang. The landlord. 12 days left. "I'm not extending again," he said. 12 days. Then I file. I don't care what your situation is." Simone hung up, walked through the front door, and there was Zoe, running toward her, holding up a new drawing. "Look, Mommy, I drew you with muscles this time." Simone laughed, really laughed. She knelt down and hugged Zoe so tight the drawing crinkled between them. "That's my favorite one yet, baby." They ate ramen that night, napkin flowers, 1 candle. Zoe talked about a science project, about a boy who tripped at recess, about wanting a dog someday. She laughed at her own jokes. She always did. After Zoe fell asleep, Simone sat alone at the kitchen table. The eviction notice in front of her, the ruined drawing drying on the counter, the sound of her daughter breathing softly in the next room. She cried. No sound, just tears running down her face in the dark. Meanwhile, across town, Travis Lawson sat at a bar with 2 Granite Shield colleagues. 3rd beer in, loose tongue. "You don't get it," he said, leaning forward. "If a 5'2" single mom, a black single mom, passes my tryout, what does that say about every man on my roster? What does that say about me?" He stabbed the table with his finger. "I built that team, every man on it. She's not wrecking what I built. Not her. Not a chance." One of his colleagues shrugged. "She finished the dummy carry, though." Travis's jaw tightened. "She won't finish what's coming next." This wasn't just arrogance anymore. This was fear. the kind of fear that makes a man dangerous. The next morning, Travis made an announcement. The final evaluation, originally a scored skills test, was now changed. New format, last man standing, open sparring, full contact, no points, no judges, just the mat and whoever was left on their feet. Every recruit knew what that meant. It was designed for one person, to finish her. Simone heard the announcement and said nothing. She finished the day's drills, packed her taped-up bag, took the bus home, put Zoe to bed, folded a napkin flower, and left it on Zoe's pillow. Then she walked into the garage, sat on the concrete floor, legs bruised, hands shaking, her father's gloves in her lap. She sat there for a long time. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in over a year. It rang twice. "Earl, it's Simone." Her voice cracked. "I need your help. I have 10 days. On the other end, a long pause. Then a voice. Deep, steady, familiar. "Come to the gym tomorrow. 6 a.m. Don't be late." She hung up. Looked at the gloves, then looked at the drawing on the fridge. Mommy with muscles, this time. 10 days. That's all she had. To save her home. To prove every man in that room wrong. To become the thing they were most afraid of. A woman who wouldn't break. Earl Davis's gym smelled like old rubber and iron. A small concrete room on the south side of Richmond. No mirrors, no music, just a heavy bag, a mat, and a man who'd been training fighters for 40 years. Simone walked in at 6 sharp. Earl hadn't seen her in over a year. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at her. The dark circles under her eyes, the bruises on her forearms, the way she favored her right leg. He walked to the back, came out with a bowl of hot porridge and set it in front of her. She ate like someone who hadn't had a real meal in days. Because she hadn't. Then they got to work. Earl pulled up Granite Shield's Tryout rulebook online. Line by line, Nora Collins, a civil rights attorney who trained at Earl's gym 3 nights a week, sat beside him, reading every clause. Page 16, Section 9. There it was. Any recruit may formally challenge the highest-ranked active employee in a sanctioned match. Simone looked at Earl. Earl looked at Nora. Nora nodded. "You file this. They have to accept," Nora said. "I'll be there as your legal witness." For the next 9 days, Earl rebuilt Simone's technique around one thing, her weak left leg. Every move anchored on the right. Every sequence designed to end the fight fast. 4 seconds. That was the window. On the last night, Simone signed the challenge form. Earl watched her write her name, same steady hand that signed the tryout sheet when 30 men laughed at her. "Your daddy would be proud," Earl said. Simone gripped the old gloves in her bag, said nothing, but her eyes answered. 9 days of preparation, 1 move, 4 seconds. That was the plan. Everything depended on what happened next. The morning of the final tryout, Simone woke at 4:30. The apartment was dark, quiet. Zoe was still asleep, one arm hanging off the bed, mouth slightly open, the way she always slept. Simone stood in the doorway and watched her daughter breathe. For a full minute, she didn't move. Then she tore a small piece of paper from a notebook and wrote 7 words. "Mommy's going to work. I love you bigger than the sky." She folded it once, set it on Zoe's pillow, grabbed her duffel bag, the one that still smelled faintly of rain and dumpster, and walked out into the dark. The bus came late. She ran the last half mile. When she pushed through the gym doors, the room was already full. Every recruit, every staff member. Travis Lawson stood at the center of the mat, arms crossed, clipboard in hand. Brody Kemp sat on the front bench, rolling his neck, cracking his knuckles, like a man who already knew the ending. Conversation stopped the second Simone walked in. A few recruits nudged each other. Someone in the back muttered, "The cockroach is back." Simone walked straight to the official's table. She placed a single sheet of paper in front of the head referee. Formal challenge. Section 9. Highest ranked active employee. She had chosen Brody Kemp. The referee read it, looked up at her, looked over at Travis, then nodded. Travis snatched the paper, read it twice. Then he laughed, loud, theatrical, meant for the entire room. "You hear this?" He held the paper up. "Little Miss Cockroach wants to fight my best guy." He turned to the recruits, grinning. "Somebody mark the time. I want the exact second she hits the floor. This'll be the shortest tryout in Granite Shield history." He signed the approval without hesitation. In his mind, this was the perfect ending. She'd get destroyed in front of everyone, and the whole diversity experiment would be over by lunch. Brody stood up, walked to the mat, rolled his shoulders. He outweighed Simone by nearly 80 pounds. His neck was thicker than her thigh. He shadowboxed twice, loose and casual, just to remind the room what she was walking into. He looked down at her. "Nothing personal, sweetheart, but you should have stayed home." The room buzzed. Recruits leaned forward on benches. Someone pulled out a phone and hit record. Another one whispered, "This is going to be ugly." Travis stepped between them for one last word. He leaned toward Simone, close, private, almost gentle. "Last chance to walk away. Nobody's going to judge you." Simone looked up at him, calm, still, not a tremor in her voice. "Everybody already has." Travis blinked, then stepped back. The referee raised his hand. The room went dead quiet. The only sound was the hum of the overhead lights. Then he dropped it. Brody moved first, fast for a man his size. He lunged forward, right hand reaching for Simone's collar, left arm wide, going for the clinch. Standard grab and control, the kind of move that ends fights against smaller opponents in 2 seconds. Simone didn't step back. She stepped left, one precise sidestep, just outside his right arm. Brody's momentum carried him forward, exactly where she wanted him. In the same motion, her right hand caught his wrist. She pulled, not hard, just enough to redirect his weight. His balance broke. Before Brody could reset, Simone was behind him, arm drag to rear clinch. Her hip drove into the back of his thigh. Her right leg swept his lead foot. Clean, surgical, the kind of technique that takes 15 years to perfect. Brody Kemp, 6'4", 230 pounds, went airborne. For one full second, the biggest man in the room was in the air, and the smallest woman in the room was the reason why. He hit the mat with a sound like a car door slamming. The walls shook, the bench rattled. Someone's water bottle tipped off the edge and rolled across the floor in the silence that followed. 4 seconds. Brody lay on his back, eyes wide open, mouth gaping, chest heaving. He tried to lift his head, couldn't. The wind had been ripped out of him completely. Simone stood over him. Her left leg buckled, the bad ankle, the old injury, the one Dwight gave her on that staircase. She caught herself, shifted her weight to the right, stood on one leg, breathing hard, sweat dripping from her jaw, onto the mat below. Her father's old boxing gloves were on her hands, torn leather, loose stitching at the thumb. The same pair Raymond Anderson handed her in that garage the week she came home carrying Zoe. Silence. Not the kind where people are thinking, the kind where people forget they have lungs. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. Then the room exploded. A recruit in the back row shot to his feet and started clapping. Then another. Then 5 more. The sound built like a wave, applause, shouts, someone slamming the bench with both palms. A man near the door yelled, "Oh my God!" Another one grabbed his own head with both hands and just kept repeating, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. Travis didn't clap. He stood frozen. His clipboard hung loose at his side. His mouth was open, but nothing came out. The recruit who'd been recording lowered his phone. His hands were shaking. He looked at the screen, looked at the man beside him, and said one thing. "Bro, this is going everywhere." He was right. Within 1 hour, the clip hit Twitter. Title: Tiny Mom Floors 230-pound guard in 4 seconds. By midnight, 2 million views. By the next morning, 6 million. By 48 hours, 12 million views and climbing. The comment section turned into a battlefield of disbelief and admiration. Play it again. Watch her hips. That technique is flawless. She trained somewhere. That's not luck. That's 15 years of mastery. I've watched this 40 times, and I still get chills at the sound of him hitting the mat. Hashtag Justice for Simone trended nationwide. News outlets picked it up. Local stations ran it on the evening broadcast. Sports podcasts dissected the hip throw frame by frame. A retired UFC commentator called it the most technically perfect 4 seconds I've ever seen on camera. And through all of it, Simone said nothing. No interviews, no posts, no statements. She took the bus home, heated up ramen for Zoe, folded a napkin flower, and went to her hospital shift. Like any other night. But back at Granite Shield, the mood was different. Travis Lawson stood in Craig Belton's office, door closed, blinds shut, his face drained of color. The phone on Belton's desk buzzed every few seconds. Reporters, board members, city officials demanding answers. Travis spoke first. Low, urgent. "We need to bury this. Now, before it gets worse." Belton stared at the screen. 12 million views. He looked up at Travis with a gaze that could cut steel. It's already worse. What happened next would make the fight look simple, because the real battle, the one that nearly destroyed Simone Anderson, hadn't even started yet. The video had 12 million views. Simone Anderson had 0 lawyers, $0 in savings, and 5 days before she lost her home. That's when Granite Shield made its move. 2 days after the fight, a registered letter arrived at Simone's apartment. She opened it at the kitchen table while Zoe was at school. Inside, 14 pages of legal language. Cease and desist, filed by Granite Shield's corporate attorneys, Howard and Pratt. The letter accused Simone of using unauthorized and dangerous combat techniques outside the scope of the sanctioned tryout. It claimed Brody Kemp sustained cervical strain, emotional distress, and reputational harm. At the bottom, a single sentence in bold: Granite Shield Protection Agency intends to pursue criminal assault charges. Simone read it twice. Her hands didn't shake. They were past shaking. She folded the letter and placed it in the same drawer as the eviction notice. 2 threats, same drawer, 5 days apart. But the legal letter was only the first punch. Travis Lawson had already made a phone call. Carla Jennings, a local TV reporter hungry for ratings, met him at a coffee shop that same morning. Travis brought a manila folder. Inside, Simone's employment records from the hospital, her home address, a screenshot of her eviction notice, and a version of events he had rehearsed down to every pause and sigh. "She's not some underdog hero," Travis told Jennings, stirring his coffee with the calm of a man who had done this before. "She's an unstable woman with a history of aggression. She targeted our top employee. He's injured. He's considering surgery. And nobody's talking about that because she's getting the sympathy card." He leaned closer, lowered his voice. "Between you and me, people like her. They always find a way to play victim. That's what this is. A setup." Jennings ran the story that evening. The headline: Viral Gym Video, Hero or Threat? Questions surround woman behind takedown. The segment used the clip. but cut it. They removed the first 3 seconds. The part where Brody lunged at Simone first. The part where she clearly moved in response. What viewers saw instead was a small woman attacking a man from behind without warning. It worked. The internet split in half overnight. Half the comments called Simone a hero. The other half called her something else entirely. She's dangerous. She assaulted that man. Unhinged, single mom looking for a payday. Of course she played the victim. They always do. Diversity hire goes wrong. Send her back to where she came from. Typical. Give them an inch, they take a mile and sue you for it. The last 2 comments had thousands of likes each. Simone read every single one of them. Sitting on her kitchen floor at midnight, phone screen glowing in the dark, knees pulled to her chest. Then the dominoes started falling. Simone's supervisor at the hospital called at 6 in the morning. His voice was tight, uncomfortable, the voice of a man reading from a script someone else wrote for him. Simone, in light of the ongoing legal situation and the media coverage, we've decided to place you on unpaid administrative leave, pending internal review. It's just temporary. It wasn't temporary. They both knew that. She lost her night shift, her steadiest paycheck, the one that kept the lights on and the rent partially paid. 5 days before eviction, and her last reliable income vanished with one phone call. Then came Dwight, her ex-husband, the man she'd fled at 3 in the morning 6 years ago with a 4-year-old on her shoulder, the man who shoved her down a staircase and never once said sorry. The man she hadn't heard from since the restraining order expired 18 months ago. He saw the clip. 12 million people saw it. Of course he did too. His lawyer filed an emergency petition in family court. Custody of Zoe Anderson. Grounds. The mother exhibits violent and unstable behavior, as documented in widely circulated video footage. The child's physical and emotional safety is at immediate risk in her care. Simone read the filing standing up in her kitchen. She didn't sit down. If she sat down, she was afraid she might not get back up. Dwight, the man who broke her ankle, the man who made her flinch at loud noises for 3 years, the man who never once held Zoe at a doctor's appointment, never once packed a school lunch, never once folded a napkin flower. That man was now using a video of Simone defending herself to call her the dangerous one, Travis from the outside, Dwight from the past, the hospital from above, the landlord from below, every direction, closing in. And through all of it, Zoe knew nothing. Simone made sure of that. She turned off the TV before the news segment aired. She deleted social media apps from her phone so Zoe couldn't stumble onto comments. She smiled at dinner. She folded napkin flowers. She listened to Zoe talk about her art project, a collage of magazine cutouts, and laughed at every joke her daughter told. One evening, while twirling ramen around her fork, Zoe looked up and asked, "Mommy, when do you start your new job?" Simone's chest tightened. She kept her smile steady. "Soon, baby. Real soon." That question, innocent, full of trust, asked with noodles hanging from a 10-year-old's mouth, cut deeper than every insult Travis had thrown, every legal threat Dwight had filed, every comment with 4,000 likes, because it reminded Simone exactly what she was fighting for, and exactly what she could lose. That night, after Zoe fell asleep with a napkin flower tucked in her hand, Simone called Nora Collins. "I can't pay you," Simone said. Flat, honest, no pride left to protect. "I know," Nora said. "I'm not asking you to." Nora took the case pro bono. She filed a counterclaim the next morning. Discrimination, hostile recruitment conditions, and intentional infliction of emotional distress against Granite Shield Protection Agency. She subpoenaed their internal security footage from all 3 days of the tryout. Every camera, every angle, every minute. Their own footage will prove everything, Nora told Simone over the phone. The rigged drills, the weighted dummy, the dumpster, Travis filming you on his phone. It's all there. Once a judge sees it, their entire case collapses. For the first time in weeks, Simone felt something she barely recognized. Hope. It lasted 2 days. The subpoenaed footage arrived at the courthouse on a sealed USB drive, labeled, time-stamped, chain of custody documented. Nora plugged it into her laptop at her office. Simone sat beside her, hands clasped tight in her lap. The screen was black. Nora tried again, reformatted, re-downloaded, opened it on a different machine. Black. Every file, every camera, every angle. 3 full days of footage, corrupted, unreadable, gone. Nora leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, let out one long, slow breath through her nose. They erased it, Simone said. Not a question. Nora didn't answer. She didn't need to. Simone stared at the black screen. No footage, no proof, no job, no money. 3 days until eviction. A custody battle she couldn't afford to fight. And a lawsuit built to bury her in silence. This was the real trap. Not the legal filing, not the media story, not even Dwight. The trap was making sure that when Simone finally had the courage to fight back, there would be nothing left to fight with. Or so they thought. The morning of the hearing, Simone found a yellow envelope slid under her apartment door. She already knew what it was before she opened it. Final notice, official eviction filing. Effective tomorrow. She placed it on the kitchen table, next to the cease and desist. Next to the custody petition, 3 documents, 3 different people trying to erase her from 3 different directions. Zoe was at school. The apartment was quiet. Simone sat at the table in silence for a long time. Then she stood up, put on the only blazer she owned, a thrift store navy blue she'd bought for a job interview 4 years ago, and took the bus to the courthouse. She had no job, no home after tomorrow, no savings, no footage. Her name had been dragged through every comment section on the internet. All she had left was Zoe, and the truth. She hoped that was enough. The hearing room was small, fluorescent lights, wood-paneled walls, a city administrative panel, 3 judges behind a long desk. The gallery had about 40 seats. Every one of them was full. Reporters, community members, Granite Shield employees, in matching polos. Craig Belton sat in the 3rd row, arms crossed, face unreadable. Travis Lawson was called to the stand first. He wore a charcoal suit, clean shave. He looked like a different man from the one who had spat insults across a gym floor. His voice was measured, practiced. Every word had been chosen by someone with a law degree. Simone Anderson entered our tryout under false pretenses, Travis said, looking straight at the panel. She misrepresented her background. She used unsanctioned techniques that endangered a member of our staff. Brody Kemp is still in physical therapy. We followed every protocol. She didn't. The panel nodded, took notes. Travis continued for 11 minutes. He painted a picture of a reckless woman who manipulated a diversity clause to gain access, then attacked an employee for viral attention. He was calm, convincing, almost believable. Then Nora Collins stood up. She didn't raise her voice, didn't rush. She buttoned her jacket, picked up a single folder, and walked to the center of the room like a woman who had been waiting for exactly this moment. Mr. Lawson, she began, you stated that Miss Anderson used unsanctioned techniques. Can you specify which techniques violated your tryout rules? Travis paused. She used excessive force. That's not a technique, Mr. Lawson. I'm asking which specific move violated which specific rule. Can you cite the section? Silence. Travis glanced at his lawyer. I'd have to review the handbook. I have it right here. Nora held up a printed copy. Section 9, paragraph 4. All recognized grappling and throwing techniques are permitted in sanctioned challenge matches. Ms. Anderson used a standard hip throw, recognized in judo, jiu-jitsu, and Krav Maga. She set the handbook on the panel's desk. Your own rules allowed it. Travis shifted in his seat. His jaw tightened. Nora wasn't finished. Let's talk about the footage your company submitted. 3 days of internal security cameras. All corrupted. Every file, every angle. Convenient. Technical malfunction, Travis said. Our IT department confirmed it. I'm sure they did. Nora turned to the panel. Your Honors, I'd like to submit Exhibit B. She pulled out a laptop, pressed play. The recruit's phone video, unedited, uncut, full audio. The version that showed everything. Brody lunging first, Simone responding, the clean throw, the 4-second takedown. Every angle the Carla Jennings news segment had deliberately removed. The room stirred. Reporters leaned forward. Travis's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but Nora wasn't done. Exhibit C, she said. Text messages from Mr. Lawson's personal phone, obtained via court-issued subpoena. She read them aloud, one by one. Day 1. Diversity checkbox showed up. Wet, limping, 125 pounds, won't last the morning. Day 2. Gave her the 200-pound dummy. She fell 3 times. Got it on video. This is gold. Day 3. Changed the final round to open sparring. Full contact. She'll quit or she'll get carried out. Either way, problem solved. Each message landed like a hammer. The gallery murmured. A reporter's camera shutter clicked rapidly. Craig Belton uncrossed his arms. His jaw went tight. Travis's face was white. He opened his mouth to respond, but Nora raised her hand. I'm not finished, Mr. Lawson. She turned to the panel. I'd like to call my next witness, Earl Davis. Earl walked to the stand. 71 years old, former Marine, ran a boxing gym on the south side of Richmond for 38 years. His voice was low and steady as concrete. 18 years ago, Earl said, I was a witness in a discrimination case against Granite Shield. A black security trainee was forced out through rigged drills. When the trainee filed a complaint, the company's internal camera footage was submitted to the court. He paused. Every file was corrupted. Exact same method. Exact same excuse. Technical malfunction. The room went still. That case was settled quietly, Earl continued. Sealed records. No media. The trainee took a payout and disappeared. But I remember, because I was the one who trained him. Nora addressed the panel. This establishes a documented pattern. Granite Shield has used footage destruction as a strategy to suppress discrimination claims. Not once, but twice, 18 years apart. Travis's lawyer stood up to object. The head judge silenced him with one raised finger. Then Nora delivered the final blow. Exhibit D court records from 2020. Dwight Anderson, Ms. Anderson's ex-husband, was the subject of a domestic violence report filed by Simone Anderson. Hospital records, police reports, and a restraining order are all documented. She turned toward the gallery, where Dwight's attorney sat 3 rows back. Mr. Anderson is now seeking emergency custody of the child, claiming the mother is violent. The court record shows the opposite. He was the violent one. She was the survivor. The judge reviewed the filing for 30 seconds, then looked up. The emergency custody petition is denied, permanently. Dwight's lawyer closed his folder without a word. Travis sat motionless on the witness stand. His suit didn't look so sharp anymore. His rehearsed answers were gone. He stared at the table. The room stared at him. Craig Belton stood up from the 3rd row. Every head turned. He straightened his jacket, walked to the front of the gallery, and spoke, loud enough for the room and every recorder in it. Travis Lawson is terminated from Granite Shield, effective immediately. His actions do not represent this company. Travis looked up at Belton. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Then the head judge turned to Simone. Ms. Anderson, would you like to make a statement? Simone stood. Slowly. She didn't look at Travis. Didn't look at Belton. She looked at the panel, 3 faces she had never met, and spoke in a voice so steady it silenced the room. I didn't come here to prove I can fight. I came here because my daughter asks me every night when I start my new job, and I refuse to answer her with a lie. She paused, took a breath. Every woman who was ever told she's too small, too dark, too broken, too poor to stand in a room full of people who decided she was nothing. I stood up, so you know you can too. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. A woman in the gallery wiped her eyes. A reporter lowered his pen. The head judge stared at Simone for a long moment, then nodded once. The silence after those words was louder than anything that had happened in that room, and it was far from over. The panel deliberated for less than an hour. When they returned, the head judge read the ruling without hesitation. Simone Anderson's actions during the Granite Shield tryout constituted lawful self-defense within the sanctioned rules of engagement. All claims filed by Granite Shield Protection Agency were dismissed. A formal investigation into evidence tampering and fraudulent testimony would be opened against Travis Lawson. Simone sat still when the words came. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just closed her eyes and let the air fill her lungs for what felt like the first time in weeks. It was over, but the aftermath moved fast. Travis Lawson was charged with destruction of subpoenaed evidence, filing a false police report, and workplace discrimination. His mugshot hit the news cycle the same evening. The man who had blocked a doorway with his body, who had called a woman a cockroach, who had rigged every drill and erased every camera. That man now sat in a booking room, staring at a concrete wall. Dwight Anderson's custody petition had already been denied permanently in the courtroom, but Nora Collins filed one more motion that afternoon, a lifetime restraining order. The judge signed it before the ink on the hearing transcript was dry. Dwight would never come near Simone or Zoe again. Not legally, not ever. The hospital called 2 days later. Simone's supervisor, the same man who had read her the suspension script, now read her a reinstatement letter, full back pay, a formal written apology from the hospital board. Simone listened. Then she said, "Thank you, but I won't be coming back." She didn't say it with anger. She said it the way someone closes a chapter they've already finished reading. Craig Belton requested a private meeting. Simone brought Nora. They sat in Belton's office, the same room where Travis had whispered, "We need to bury this," 3 weeks earlier. Belton didn't waste time. He placed a contract on the table, senior trainer, Granite Shield Protection Agency, full authority to redesign the recruitment program. Training protocols, evaluation criteria, anti-discrimination policy. Starting salary, $6,800 a month. More than she'd ever earned in her life, at all 3 jobs combined. But that wasn't all. Belton slid a second document across the desk. A compensation agreement. 6 months of rent paid directly to her landlord, effective immediately. The eviction filing would be withdrawn by the end of the day. "This doesn't fix what happened," Belton said, "but it's a start." Simone looked at the contract, then at Nora, then back at Belton. "I'll redesign your program," she said. "But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so no one walks into that gym and goes through what I went through." She signed it. Same steady hand, same calm eyes. The city moved too. Richmond's council held an emergency session the following week. They cited the Granite Shield case, the rigged drills, the erased footage, the retaliation, as evidence that current oversight was not enough. By unanimous vote, they passed the Fair Tryout Transparency Act. Every contracted security firm in the city would now be required to film all recruitment evaluations, submit unedited footage to an independent review board, and implement anti-hazing protocols with criminal penalties for violations. Simone's name was in the first paragraph of the legislation, but none of that mattered as much as what happened when she got home that evening. She turned the key, opened the door, and Zoe, 10 years old, bare feet, hair half-braided, came sprinting down the hallway like a little hurricane. "Mommy, did you get the job?" Simone dropped her bag, knelt down on both knees, pulled Zoe in close, and said the words she'd been waiting to say for longer than she could remember. "Yeah, baby, Mommy got the job." Zoe squeezed her so tight Simone could feel her heartbeat. Then Zoe pulled back, reached behind her, and held up a drawing. Mommy, standing tall, wearing a granite shield jacket. But underneath, poking out at the collar, visible to anyone who looked closely enough, was a red cape. Simone laughed. Then she cried, right there, on her knees, holding a drawing and her daughter and everything she almost lost. That weekend, Earl Davis opened his gym for a celebration. Neighbors came, Nora came, a few recruits from the Tryout came, the ones who had watched in silence but never forgotten what they saw. Someone brought a cake. Someone else hung a banner that read, "Simone Anderson, still standing." Zoe sat in the corner with a box of markers, drawing every person in the room. She called it her Wall of Heroes. 6 months later, Simone Anderson stood in front of a room full of women. Not a gym full of men who wanted her gone. A room full of women who had come because they heard her story and recognized something in it. The program was called Stand Your Ground, Stand Together, free self-defense training, every Saturday. Open to any woman, but built especially for single mothers and survivors of domestic violence. No fees, no judgment, no one turned away. It started in Earl's gym, 12 women the first week, most of them nervous, some of them flinching when Simone demonstrated a block. One woman stood in the back with her arms wrapped around herself for the entire first class. She didn't throw a single punch. She came back the next week, and the week after that. By the 4th Saturday, she was hitting the bag so hard the chain rattled. She cried after the session, not from pain, from realizing she still had power inside her that no one had managed to take. That was just Richmond. Within 3 months, the program expanded. Baltimore, Atlanta, Charlotte, Detroit, Philadelphia, Houston, Chicago, 8 cities. Volunteer instructors, many of them women who had survived what Simone survived, ran classes in church basements, community centers, school gymnasiums. #StandUp, like Simone, became more than a hashtag. It became a movement. Women posted videos of themselves training. First awkward, then steady, then strong. Mothers brought their daughters. Grandmothers brought their granddaughters. A 63-year-old woman in Detroit posted a clip of herself landing a hip throw on a padded dummy. The caption read, 63 years old, first throw. Simone made me believe I could. It got 2 million views. And every Saturday, in the corner of Earl's gym, Zoe Anderson sat with her markers and her paper. She didn't train. She drew. She drew every woman who walked through that door, every face, every stance, every pair of hands wrapped in tape for the first time. She pinned each portrait to the back wall of the gym, next to her very first drawing. Mommy in a red cape. She called it the Wall of Heroes. By month 6, there were over 100 portraits on that wall, all different, all strong, all drawn by a 10-year-old girl who believed her mother could fly. Simone never did any interviews, never posted a single video herself. She didn't need to. The women she trained told the story for her. Every Saturday, every city, every punch thrown by a hand that used to shake. One reporter asked her, months later, if she had a message for Travis Lawson. Simone thought for a moment. Then she said, "I don't think about him. I think about the next woman who's going to walk through a door where nobody believes in her. That's who I work for now. That was it. That was Simone. Now I want to hear from you. What's your 4-second moment? That one time you walked into a room where nobody believed you and you proved them wrong. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's coming. Either way, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. That single mom working 3 jobs. That woman who's been told she's too small, too dark, too broken. She needs to know that Simone exists and that she can exist too. If this story moved you, subscribe. Hit the bell. Because there are more stories like this. And I'm not done telling them.
I want you to hear this. The world will look at you and decide what you can't do. Too small, too poor, too broken, too alone. They will measure you with their eyes and write you off before you open your mouth. Let them. Because the people who underestimate you are giving you the greatest gift in the world. They are not paying attention. And while they are laughing, while they are betting against you, while they are so sure you will quit, you are getting ready. Quietly, patiently, one day at a time, until the moment comes. And when it does, you only need 4 seconds. So, if you are in that room right now, the room where nobody believes in you, where everybody wants you to fail, where the whole world feels like it's closing in, don't quit, don't shrink, don't let them see you break. But keep showing up, keep standing, keep going. Because the people who stay standing when everything they fail, those are the people who change the world. Like, share, and subscribe. Real stories, real justice every week. And remember, you are stronger than you think. You always were.